Hi, my beautiful friends. Welcome to Joy Fido International. And part of what we do here is to share our life experiences with you, which is what we call Pearls of Wisdom with Joy Fido. So today I'm looking all traditional with the headgear and everything that goes with that. So welcome on board. So we generally just chat about life and my experiences along the way. If you've been following me, I've lived in Africa half of my life and I've lived in UK half of my life. So it's like I have experiences cut across board, and that's what I like to share here, my experiences of surviving so far on both continents. So what's today's topic is really about that word survival. And survival is self-love and is self-care. Self-love, self-care, so important in our lives. And the word survival is so important too. So our survival is about us caring for ourselves, really. And most times when I hear the word survival, some people think you're trying to say things that don't add up. But survival is your existence. It's about you being here on this planet, keeping it going no matter what. How are we able to do that? And why am I asking that question? Is one of those things that lots of people are struggling with, and lots of us are struggling with it. How do we survive? Is even more so right now with the high cost of living here in the UK, high cost of living in Nigeria, where I come from, and these cuts of, across all boards, the Ukraine war, when we struggle with COVID-19, and the aftermath of that, where people are beginning to wonder, what's the next way forward? How do I cope with what I've just finished dealing with? So survival is so important. And much of it too comes from, the kind of things that cause you frustration, the thing that gives you stresses in your life. And when we're dealing with stress and frustration, most times what I explain to people is stress and frustration comes when our inner being is struggling with our outer being. And this could happen when, I think we all have this mental image of who we should be. So in our head, we've created this amazing person, this personality, this whatever these goals that you had in mind are. And then suddenly you're seeing that your reality is different. Like in my head, this is who I should be. And in my reality, that's not tying up. What then happens? Frustration comes in. Another way I like to, analyze frustration is like when you go shopping. Now, these are some of the things I got from me taking on my master's degree, my course. And there's something about a person's satisfaction when you buy a product. And most times in tourism is like when you're going on holiday and you have an idea what you want this holiday to be. So you bought a hotel room, you have an idea what you expect the hotel to have. Most times you go on the internet, you see what it looks like, you've seen what they've told you is going to be, and then you have that at the back of your mind and you arrive, and does it match that? Does that image you have from your research on the internet match with what you're seeing in reality? Now, what may happen, three things generally happen. It may meet that expectation, which is as you arrive there, exactly as they describe it online is what you're seeing. It may be above your expectation. So, wow, this is amazing. I didn't imagine it was going to be like this. Or it may be below your expectation. So these are the three things that happen every time we're going into any transaction. So whenever it's below our expectation, guess what happens? Frustration comes in, stress comes in. So bear that in mind when we're going to be dealing with survival as a topic. Frustration being expectation below, having what we're dealing with is below what we expected. Now, this could come from your family. Your direct family could be causing you stress. And when I say direct family, it could be your children, it could be your spouse, maybe your husband or your wife, it could be your relatives. All this could be happening in the way that you had this expectation of what you expected from your relatives, or what you expected from your children, or what you expected from your family, from your parents, from your husband, from your wife, and it's below that expectation. It's below what you thought it was going to be. What then happens? Stress comes in. It could also be from your friends. So you have all this ton of friends. If you're just some people, they have so many friends, and then you have expectations of them, and then what happens sometimes? These expectations are not met. It could also be with your colleagues at work. It could also be with your job. You had this expectation of this job and it's not happening. Oh my gosh, I'm stressed out, I'm frustrated. And then the two big ones, it could also be with the system. When we say system in Africa, I know we all deal with it because I visit Nigeria quite a lot. And where is the frustration coming from? From the system. What is the system? The government of the day. The government doesn't understand that people are stressed out. Government doesn't understand that lack of infrastructure, lack of employment, lack of basic amenities, lack of roads, lack of hospital, all these things add up to cause frustration. And the next one that also comes from the system, again in Africa, we're struggling with, what do we call it, tribalism. You're from this tribe and you're from that tribe, and so because this causes wars. People from this tribe don't want to see people from that tribe, and then what happens? There's a massive war, and then people are being killed over that. Frustration sets in. People get frustrated and they get angry and they react. And then while we're still talking about systemic frustration or the systemic stress, if you're in the Western world, it's a different story. Now you start dealing with that color and that color. Then it becomes colored people. Then it becomes black and white. Then it becomes people who are employed and people who are unemployed. People who are able and people who are disabled. So all these things create scenarios that lead to frustrations. And when we have to fight all of these things that we're talking about, what do you think then happens? Survival becomes the name of the game. How do we survive in the heat of all these frustrations that we are facing every day? Because while we are even talking about racism and color and tribes, we also talk about the haves and the have-nots. Who are these people? Rich people don't see poor people as anything. They just see them as a number. They just see them as people to use in causing more confusion in the system. And this is a big one that we're struggling with in Nigeria. Like, the rich people are so few in numbers that the amount of hold they have over these 200 and something plus million people is shocking. But I know that in the West, politics does have a purpose, does have a meaning. Countries are planned years and years ahead. Well, in Africa, it's a different story. And this is where survival is so important. How do you cope to survive? And this is where our mental health is a big thing we have to face. And that's why I call it self-love and self-care. Self-love is you believing in who you are. You see, there's example of me dressing up in my traditional outfit. I have a channel that I call African Queen, and it's about me being proud of everything that I am, my roots. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the fact that I have culture. I'm proud of the fact that I have heritage. I have something that makes me stand out. That's self-love. And I want to share that with all of you out there, my friends and my, supporters. We need to love who we are. Because the minute you begin to love who you are, your survival begins to take hold. Why? Because you're not going to be listening to all the noise that'll be yapping in your ear.